You know that distinct feeling of walking into a high-stakes job interview where there is this overwhelming expectation that you just need to be absolutely
Oh
flawless?
yeah, the pressure is completely unnatural.
Right. Your suit is perfectly tailored, your resume is printed on that ridiculously thick, expensive cardstock, and your spoken English, well, especially if you're a non-native speaker, it's supposed to be textbook perfect.
Which is exactly where things usually go terribly wrong.
Exactly. Because a few years ago, I had one of these interviews. I was sitting across from the hiring manager, and my attempt at absolute rigid textbook perfection completely backfired.
Oh no. What did you say?
Well, the interviewer asked about my current employment status. So I puffed out my chest, engaged my absolute best, most grammatically precise pronunciation, and proudly declared, I am jobless.
Oh wow. Yeah, that immediately triggers a completely unintended psychological response in the room.
The interviewer looked at me with sheer, unadulterated tragedy in his eyes. He literally looked like he was about to reach into his pocket and offer me spare change for the bus ride home.
That is so painful.
Yeah.
Because, jobless sounds like a profound human tragedy. It
Oh,
carries the linguistic weight of a permanent, inescapable state of
I
despair.
felt so embarrassed.
I bet. If you use the casual phrase, I'm between jobs, you project the image of a confident professional taking a strategic pause.
Yeah.
You accidentally told the interviewer you were destitute.
I really did, and I realized in that exact moment that textbook English is a trap. It totally betrayed my actual intent.
It really does.
Welcome to English Scenario. I'm Leo, the king of textbook mistakes.
And I'm Zara, the one who speaks real-world English.
And that realization about textbook English betraying us is the driving force behind our deep dive today for you, the listener. We're looking at a massive stack of sources today.
Yeah, we've got structural grammar guides, linguistics papers on colloquialisms, and dense, frankly terrifying book titled Robots Will Steal Your Job.
The mission here is to synthesize these sources to uncover a counterintuitive reality about the modern workplace.
Right. Mastering imperfect real-world English is no longer just a social skill. It is your ultimate survival tool to avoid becoming completely obsolete in an AI-driven automated economy.
So if we look at the linguistics papers in our stack, we start to see the architecture of why that perfect English fails us the moment we step out of the classroom.
Because it's rigid.
Yeah. Textbook English is engineered to be rigid. It prioritizes a mathematical correctness over nuance or warmth or adaptability.
And when you strip language of nuance and warmth, you are left with something entirely artificial. You're basically speaking the native tongue of a machine.
But my book teaches the right way. Like it says I should greet people with how do you do, or I would like to inquire about your availability.
I mean, textbooks are sometimes like old clothes. They just don't fit in 2026. Real English prioritizes connection over correctness.
Okay, but why is that a survival tool?
To understand why being a textbook robot is so dangerous for your career trajectory, we have to look at the data in Robots Will Steal Your Job.
Right, the exponential growth stuff.
Exactly. The core thesis rests on Moore's law and the exponential growth of computing power. The author uses this analogy that beautifully illustrates how humans fundamentally misunderstand exponential growth.
The bacteria in the glass analogy, I love this one.
It's terrifying. So
Mm.
imagine an empty glass. You place a single bacterium inside. These bacteria are engineered to double in number every single minute.
Okay, tracking with you.
After exactly 60 minutes, the glass is completely full. The question posed to the reader is, at what point was the glass only about 3% full?
Well, our linear human brains immediately want to say 30 minutes. Like if 60 minutes is full, half of that time should give us a visible chunk of progress.
Right. But mathematically, the glass hits roughly 3% at 55 minutes.
Wow.
For 55 minutes, you are staring at a glass that looks practically empty. The threat seems non-existent.
Hmm.
But because the volume doubles every 60 seconds,
3% becomes 6.
6 becomes 12, 12 becomes 24, and suddenly in just 5 minutes, the glass is overflowing.
And that 55-minute mark is exactly where artificial intelligence sits right now.
Exactly. We look at language models and think they're just parlor tricks, barely filling the glass. We fail to recognize that the overflow is historically imminent.
Wait, if algorithms like IBM's Watson or the massive language models we see today can already write perfectly grammatical sports articles and win Jeopardy, shouldn't we try to be even more grammatically perfect to compete?
Absolutely not.
I mean, my instinct is to fight back by leveling up. If the machine is perfect, I need to try to outperfect the machine.
No, no. If you speak with rigid 100% textbook perfection, you sound like a robot. And a literal machine will always beat you at being a machine.
Because they operate on probabilistic token prediction, right?
Yes. They calculate the mathematically optimal next word based on billions of parameters. They
Oh.
do not misplace modifiers. They don't forget vocabulary words.
So if I try to be perfect, I'm competing on their home turf.
Exactly. To survive, you must sound human.
Since we can't outperfect the machines, we must lean into our humanity. How do we do that?
By actively breaking grammar rules. Confident native speakers break them every single day to build rapport.
So the underlying mechanism here is shared vulnerability.
Right. When we break a rule, we signal to the listener that we value our connection with them more than we value strict adherence to an arbitrary authority.
Let's look at sentence fragments. A rigid textbook dictates that if someone asks your opinion on a proposal, you reply with a complete subject-verb-object structure,
Like, yes, I agree with that proposal.
which makes you sound like you are reading a software terms of service agreement out loud.
It really does. The linguistics papers suggest the natural human response is a fragment. Yeah, total.
It strips away the unnecessary scaffolding.
Exactly.
Damn.
We see the same thing with ending sentences with prepositions. The textbooks demand we say, with whom are you working?
If I dropped, "With whom are you working?" in a casual marketing stand-up, the team would think I was a time traveler from the Victorian era.
Totally. The natural phrasing is, who are you working with? Winston Churchill actually mocked this specific rule. He said, this is the sort of English up with which I will not put.
That's amazing. Following the rules strictly actually destroys the clarity of the sentence.
We also collapse the structure of words entirely, using they for a singular person or smashing words together into phonetic car crashes.
Like saying "I'd I've" instead of "I would have."
Yes. This compression creates a rhythmic flow that signals casual intimacy.
But what about fillers? My teacher's always says saying, or like makes you sound uneducated.
Well, overusing them is definitely bad. If the structural walls of your sentence are made entirely of ums, the building collapses.
Right.
But using strategic fillers, like,
Yeah.
actually creates rapport. It's a discourse marker.
If machines can calculate their perfect sentence instantly, then my hesitation, is actually a proof of work.
Yes, exactly. It proves to the listener that you are formulating thoughts in real time. It's the ultimate proof that you are not a pre-programmed robot.
You are exposing your cognitive load. Like, I am a human being, I'm digesting what you just said, and I'm carefully crafting my response.
Because your perspective matters to me. It invites the listener into your thought process. When a human stumbles slightly, it becomes a biometric signature of authenticity.
That biometric signature extends directly into vocal tone and nuance, which is where humans still hold the absolute high ground.
Navigating awkward or sensitive social friction. AI famously struggles with this.
Because it lacks the capacity to feel social discomfort. For example, asking someone to repeat themselves always feels a bit rude.
The literal textbook translation of your need is to tell them to repeat.
Please, repeat.
That is terrifying.
Doing it in a stiff robot voice is borderline aggressive. The other person feels like they are being interrogated by a malfunctioning android.
The human alternative relies entirely on softening the request through tone. You use a smooth, cool voice and say, sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
It takes the blame off their speaking skills and places it onto my listening skills.
Exactly. The sources list dozens of these clarification tactics like, come again, or what was that?
Or for formal meetings, could you run that past me again?
None of those phrases mean what their individual words mean. You aren't asking someone to physically run past you.
We are using language to abstract reality, which brings up the power of softening reality through euphemisms and colloquialisms.
Euphemisms are the ultimate psychological shock absorbers. We say someone was let go instead of fired.
Or asleep instead of dead.
Right. We use minced oaths like, oh, shoot, or darn, to vent frustration without swearing. We do this to maintain a cooperative social environment.
A language model doesn't inherently care about protecting feelings. For humans, applying that linguistic shock absorber is a survival instinct.
But the sources dive into much darker territory regarding euphemisms. They aren't just used for politeness. They are weaponized by institutions to engineer public perception.
Okay, before we delve into the institutional examples provided in the linguistics text, it is mandatory that we explicitly state to you, the listener, that we are impartially reporting the contents of these sources.
Yes, we are not taking political sides, endorsing these viewpoints, or making a moral judgment on the policies themselves. We are strictly conveying the factual examples provided in the source material.
We're just looking at how language softens harsh realities. So what are the examples?
The sources cite several highly charged examples. In domestic policy, the text points to the term affirmative action. Critics in the source material argue this phrase functions as a euphemism designed to soften the reality of what they view as reverse discrimination.
By replacing a harsh concept with words that imply positive momentum.
Exactly. In the realm of intelligence, the source analyzes the CIA's use of enhanced interrogation.
Whoa.
By replacing the visceral word torture with enhanced, a word universally associated with improvement or upgrade the institution, dulls the public's moral sensibility.
The source also highlights international conflict, specifically Russian President Vladimir Putin referring to the invasion of Ukraine as a special military operation.
The phrase is sterile. It sounds bureaucratic and contained, deliberately avoiding the chaotic, bloody reality of the word war.
Whether you agree or disagree with the underlying actions, the linguistic machinery operates identically across all these examples. A robot simply processes the data of an event. A human actively uses words as a shield, a shock absorber, or a weapon.
Language is our social armor.
So, if we are breaking rules, using slang, and throwing around abstract euphemisms, does anything go? Can we just abandon structural grammar entirely?
No, absolutely not. Some mistakes don't make you sound human. They just cause friction and confusion.
Right. There is a massive functional difference between breaking a decorative rule to create rapport and breaking a structural rule that causes cognitive friction for your listener.
The linguistics guides outline the foundational mechanics of English. Let's call them the fifth grade rules. If you violate these, the entire linguistic building collapses.
Let's look at a very common mistake. I am agree.
This is a perfect example.
Wait, that's wrong. No way. I've been saying that for years.
Yes, it's wrong because agree is a state of verb. It's just like the verbs run or eat. You wouldn't walk up to a colleague and say, I am run, right?
Wait, I'd say I am running if it's currently happening, or I run as a general truth.
So never say I am agree. Just say I agree. By adding am to agree, you force a verb that already contains its own state of being into a passive structure it can't support.
It doesn't make you sound charmingly human. It just distracts the listener's brain.
It forces them to pause and decode your syntax.
What about prepositions of connection?
That's another classic trap. Saying you are married with an engineer.
It sounds like a group activity, like you're both participating in a shared space.
Exactly. Married with is like a group, but married to is like a connection between two people. The word to implies a vector, aiming from one person toward another.
We see a similar breakdown with direct translations of age, like saying, I am 25 years.
Because in English, years is just a unit of measurement. It's like saying, I am 6 feet. 6 feet what? You have to finish the thought with, I am 25 years old.
The takeaway here for you, the listener, is to prioritize clarity and flow over rigid correctness, but without losing the basic structural mechanics that make English understandable.
Your foundation must be rock solid. Only when the load-bearing walls are secure can you safely start tearing down the decorative rules to make the house feel lived in.
So, summarizing our deep dive today, textbooks build the foundation, but real English is forged in the messy, human interactions of daily life.
It thrives in the deliberate pauses, the strategic sentence fragments, and the psychological padding of euphemisms.
Having stumbled through my own fair share of linguistic disasters, like sitting in that interview chair declaring myself jobless, I can safely say I'm used to making mistakes, but now I'm used to fixing them.
And if you want to sound natural, stop being a textbook robot and join the English scenario. But that adaptability leaves us with a provocative final thought to ponder.
Oh, right. What happens next?
Think about the bacteria in the glass. If AI continues its exponential growth, it might eventually learn to perfectly mimic our rule-breaking.
You mean they'll learn the mechanics of our imperfections?
Yes. What happens when it strategically uses fillers, and drops perfect euphemisms to generate false rapport?
If machines eventually sound exactly like casual humans, how will we tell the humans and the robots apart in the boardroom of the future?
Will we have to invent entirely new grammar mistakes just to prove we have a pulse?
That is wild. It means human language will be forced to evolve at an unprecedented speed just to stay one step ahead of the machines trying to map it.
Exactly.
So, to you, the listener, the call to action is immediate. Stop being a textbook robot, embrace the messy human side of language, and join us for our next deep dive. Keep learning.